On my 35th birthday, I realized my whole life with my husband had been a lie. It started with something that looked so normal, so romantic, that anyone from the outside would have called it perfect. He dimmed the lights. He put my favorite song on. He lit the candles on the small cake he bought. And then, with a soft smile that I used to believe, he poured my favorite wine into 2 elegant glasses. I remember every tiny detail from that moment, like my mind knew something was wrong and decided to record everything in slow motion. His fingers were steady when he opened the bottle. His voice was calm when he said, "To us, baby. To new beginnings." New beginnings. At the time, those words just felt a little strange. After all, it was my birthday, not New Year's Eve, not an anniversary. Why new beginnings? But I smiled anyway because that's what I had learned to do. Ignore my gut. Ignore the tiny alarm bells. Pretend everything was fine. We sat at the small table he had decorated with rose petals. Cliché, yes, but a pretty one. The room smelled like vanilla candles and the pasta he tried to cook but ended up oversalting. I saw the effort. I saw the performance. He slid one of the wine glasses toward me, the one on his right side. "Happy birthday, Mia," he said softly. "You deserve the world." Eyes met. For a second, his smile didn't reach his eyes. It was there on his lips, but his eyes looked sharp, focused, almost like he was waiting for something. And then, just as I reached for the glass, I heard my therapist's voice in my head from 2 weeks ago. Listen to your instincts. When your body feels something is off, do not ignore it. Froze. Why did that sentence choose this moment to come back to me? I'd been on edge for weeks. Strange late-night calls. Hidden messages on his phone he thought I hadn't seen. Money missing from our joint account. A friend's strange warning. "Be careful around him, Mia. I don't think he's who you think he is." And then there was the life insurance policy I found in the drawer. I looked down at the glass again. He watched me. And in that second, a wild thought ran through my mind. Thought I would have laughed at a year before. What if? Well, that was crazy. That was something from a crime show, not my life. Still, my fingers moved before my brain could catch up. Right as I lifted the glass, I smiled at him and said lightly, "Oh wait, I think we should switch. This one has more." Without waiting for his answer, I smoothly switched the glasses. I pushed mine toward him and took his. It was such a small movement, such a tiny change. But the second I switched the glasses, his face changed completely. His jaw tightened. The color drained from his cheeks. His eyes widened for a fraction of a second, just enough for me to see the panic underneath the mask. Most people wouldn't notice it, but I did, because in that split second I saw the truth. He hadn't poured us wine to celebrate my birthday. He had poured himself safety. And me something else. And he did not expect me to switch the glasses. I leaned back in my chair, holding my new glass in my hand, and I smiled like I knew nothing. "Come on," I said softly. "Toast with me." Inside, my heart was pounding so hard that I could hear it in my ears. Had no proof. Had no test. I had only his face. But sometimes, one expression is all you need to see that the person sitting across from you is not your husband. He's your enemy. People always say, "No one changes overnight." They're right. My husband didn't become a stranger in one day. He became a stranger slowly, one small moment at a time, and I didn't see it, because I was too busy trying to save our marriage. When I met Daniel, he was charming, kind, funny. At least that's what I believed. He brought me coffee at work. He remembered my favorite dessert. He called my mother every Sunday just to check in. He checked all the boxes of a good man. But real character doesn't show up in the big gestures. It shows up in the quiet moments, when no one is watching. The first crack appeared a year into our marriage. I'd just gotten a promotion. I came home excited, ready to celebrate. I expected him to be happy for me. Instead, the air turned cold. "Oh," he said, not looking up from his phone. "So now you're going to be the big boss, huh?" He smiled, but there was something sharp behind it. I laughed it off. It's just a small promotion, Dan. Yeah, well, he replied, putting his phone down. Don't forget who paid the bills when you were still figuring things out. That sentence stung more than I wanted to admit. But I swallowed it. I didn't want to start a fight. So I hugged him, told him I loved him, and tried to ignore the way he stiffened for half a second. Little moments like that kept coming. He made jokes about my job being cute, while his business was real work. He started coming home later and later, always with perfect excuses. Meetings, clients, traffic. When I asked to see his calendar once, just to help him schedule something, he snapped, "Do you not trust me?" It was such an overreaction that I backed off immediately. I now know that people who have nothing to hide don't overreact when you ask simple questions. Then money started disappearing. Small amounts at first. 100 here, 200 there. I thought maybe I was just bad at tracking our expenses. But the numbers didn't lie. Every month, more and more was missing from our joint account. "Business investment," he said when I finally asked. "What kind of investment?" "You wouldn't understand, Mia. Just trust me." So I did. But trust is a dangerous thing in the wrong hands. And then there was the perfume. One night, he came home late, saying he had been with a client. He kissed me on the forehead and I smelled it. Light, floral, not mine. I told myself it could come from anywhere. An elevator. A restaurant. Another woman walking past him. But then I found the hotel bill. At first, I didn't even know what I was looking at. It was folded in the pocket of a blazer he never wore around me. I was looking for his car keys when the paper slipped out and fell onto the floor. Hotel. 2 nights. A room that cost more than our rent. When I confronted him, he laughed like it was a joke. "Oh my God, Mia. That's from a conference months ago." "Seriously?" My voice shook. "You never told me about a conference." "Well, I tell you everything now," he shot back. "I work. That's what I do. You wanted a stable life. This is it." He flipped it like I was the problem. Like my question was an attack. And I let it go, at least on the surface. But inside something started to shift. I started watching him more carefully. I listened. I counted the lies he told other people. Little lies at first. Lies about being stuck in traffic when he was clearly still at the bar. Lies about forgetting an email he had never opened. If a person lies easily to others, they can lie easily to you. The final straw, though, was the insurance policy. One afternoon, I was organizing our documents and found an envelope with my name on it. Inside, a life insurance policy taken out in my name, with Daniel as the only beneficiary. I stared at the amount. It wasn't small. My hands trembled as I looked at the date. 3 months ago. He hadn't told me. He hadn't even mentioned it. I stood in the living room, holding that paper, and something icy settled over my chest. I thought about the missing money, the late nights, the hotel bill, the strange perfume, the cold look in his eyes when he thought I wasn't watching. And for the first time since I met him, a thought came into my mind that scared me more than anything else. What if my husband didn't just stop loving me? What if he was planning something much worse? From that day on, I watched him quietly. I made copies of everything. The insurance policy, our bank statements, screenshots of messages I found when he forgot to lock his phone, messages with a woman named Lena, filled with secrets and plans. Plans that did not include me. So on the night of my birthday, when he poured the wine and said, "To new beginnings," every part of my body went on high alert. Because sometimes a new beginning, for one person, means the end of someone else. I sat there, holding his glass in my hand, my fingers wrapped around the cold stem. The room was so quiet I could hear the faint tick of the clock on the wall. He stared at me. Just for a second. Just long enough for me to see through him. You can't hide that kind of fear. Not when you think your plan is slipping away right in front of you. He tried to recover fast. He forced a smile. "Sure, we can switch. It's all the same anyway." But it wasn't. We both knew it wasn't. My heart was pounding so hard I was afraid he could see it in my throat. I lifted my glass slightly. "To us," I said, my voice calm, almost playful. To new beginnings, right? I watched his throat move as he swallowed. He didn't pick up his glass. His fingers rested near the base, but he didn't lift it. Yeah, he said slowly. New beginnings. He still didn't drink. Most people, when they propose a toast, are eager to clink the glasses, laugh, drink, and move on. That's the natural flow. Daniel. He just stared at mine. I tilted my head. Aren't you going to drink? He shook himself, as if waking from a dream. Of course. He grabbed the glass. The wrong glass. The one he hadn't planned to drink from. The one he had meant for me. His hand shook slightly. Just a tiny tremor. But I'd been watching him for weeks. I knew his body language better than anyone. And something in me decided. I wouldn't drink. Not a single drop. So I put the glass to my lips, let it touch, tilted it just enough so it looked like I was taking a sip, and then set it down. I didn't actually swallow anything. I had learned to act around him. He wasn't the only one who could perform. He, on the other hand, took the smallest sip I had ever seen. Barely anything. But enough, I suspected, for him to panic about. The moment the wine touched his mouth, his eyes flickered. He licked his lips like he was checking for something. Good? I asked, my eyes on his. He forced a laugh. Yeah, just a bit strong. Must be the bottle. We sat like that for a few seconds. The candles danced between us, their tiny flames reflecting in his glass. He tried to keep the conversation going, but his words were clumsy. So, how does it feel, 35? He asked. Strange, I answered quietly. Feels like a good age to finally see things clearly. A muscle moved in his jaw. What's that supposed to mean? He asked, his tone too fast, too defensive. Smiled. Relax, Dan. It's just a birthday thought. But I wasn't relaxed at all. Inside, my mind was racing. What if I was wrong? What if he was just tired? What if I had created this entire nightmare in my head? Then I remembered the insurance policy again, that cold number staring back at me. Whoa. I wasn't making this up. I watched him as the minutes passed. His hand, holding the glass, grew tense. He put it down, picked it up, put it down again. He kept fidgeting. Why aren't you drinking? He asked me suddenly, his eyes narrowing. Shrugged. I'm just enjoying the moment. You always drink on your birthday. So, I said softly, maybe this year is different. His eyes locked on mine, and for the first time he dropped the act. His voice became hard. Mia, drink the wine. There it was. No more sweet tone. No more fake charm. Just a command. I leaned back in my chair, my heart slowing down instead of speeding up. Because finally he had stopped pretending, and that gave me power. Why? I asked quietly. His eyes flashed. Because I poured it for you. Don't make this into some weird thing. I didn't say it was weird, I replied. I just asked why it's so important to you that I drink it. Because it's your birthday, he snapped. And you can't celebrate if I don't drink. Yes. His mouth opened, then closed. I saw his mind racing. Every second that passed made him more nervous. His skin was getting paler. He glanced at the glass in his hand again like it was turning into a weapon. Fine, he muttered. You don't want it. I'll drink it. Happy now. He lifted the glass again and took another sip. Bigger this time, almost like he wanted to prove something. I watched him closely. He forced a grin. See. Just wine. You're being paranoid, Mia. But I saw it. Under the surface, behind his eyes, there was something else. A flicker of regret. Flash of fear. He had not expected this. He had expected me to trust him blindly, like I had always done. He had expected me to drink what he handed me without question. But something had changed. The rest of the night unfolded like a strange play. He tried to put on a movie. He tried to cut the cake. He tried to act normal. But I watched every move he made, every breath, every little change in his expression. He grew quieter, His hand went to his stomach a few times, almost unconsciously. His eyes darted around the room like he was trapped in a cage he had built himself. By the time an hour passed, he was sweating. "Are you okay?" I asked softly, my face innocent. He shot me a look that was both angry and afraid. "I'm fine." But he wasn't fine. He knew I knew. And I knew he was starting to feel exactly what he had planned for me. Something inside me went cold and strong at the same time. I didn't know exactly what he had done. I didn't know what he had put in that glass, or how long he had been planning this. But in that moment I decided something simple. I was not going to be the victim in his story. If he wanted a game, I would show him I knew how to play. He left the table suddenly, muttering something about needing the bathroom. I listened carefully. No sound of the shower. No faucet. Just silence and then muffled breathing, like someone was leaning over the sink. I gave him a few minutes, then quietly walked down the hallway. The bathroom door was slightly open. I saw his reflection in the mirror. His face was pale. He gripped the sink so hard his knuckles were white. He didn't see me at first. "Everything's fine," he whispered to himself. "You're overreacting. Just a mild dose. She didn't drink it. You drank it. It'll pass. Just breathe." My blood turned to ice. Mild dose. What exactly was a mild dose? I pushed the door open a little more. Creaked softly. He jumped. "Mia!" he shouted, spinning around. His eyes were wild for a second before he forced his expression back under control. "What are you doing?" "I was going to ask if you're okay," I said slowly. "You look sick." "I'm fine," he snapped. "Why are you spying on me? Why are you talking to yourself?" "Yes." We stared at each other. The bathroom, with its white tiles and soft light, suddenly felt like a courtroom. His breathing was uneven. He wiped his forehead with a towel and tried to smile. "I think the food didn't sit well. That's all." "The food," I repeated. "You didn't even eat that much." "So now you're counting my bites," he said, his tone defensive, his eyes sharp. "What is wrong with you tonight?" "What's wrong with me?" I said quietly. "Daniel, you poured me wine, then panicked when I switched glasses. You're sweating. You're shaking. And I just heard you say, 'She didn't drink it, I did.' So tell me, what exactly didn't I drink?" He froze. His eyes, for a moment, were raw and unprotected. "Mia," he said, his voice low and warning. "Drop it." "No," I answered. My own voice surprised me. It was steady, cold, strong in a way I hadn't felt in years. "I think I've dropped enough things for you. Enough doubts. Enough excuses. Enough proof. Not tonight." He took a step toward me. "You're being dramatic," says the man talking to himself in the bathroom. I replied, not moving back. He tried to laugh, but it broke halfway. "You've been reading too many crime stories. You think I'm some kind of villain now." I tilted my head. "Are you?" Something behind his eyes flickered again. He looked at the floor. The mirror. Anywhere but at me. My heart was racing, but I knew this was my moment. If I pushed too hard, he might shut down completely. If I didn't push at all, I might never get the truth. So I took a different approach. I softened my voice. "Dan, if something is wrong, if you're in trouble, I need to know. I'm your wife. Or at least I thought I was part of your life, not just some obstacle." He looked up sharply. "Why would you call yourself that?" "Because that's how you've been acting," I said simply. "Like I'm in your way. Like you need to get rid of me somehow." The word slipped out before I could stop it. "Get rid of me." His eyes widened for just a second. We both heard it. We both knew what it meant. Silence filled the small bathroom. Finally, he exhaled long and slow and leaned back against the sink. His shoulders sagged. His voice, when he finally spoke, wasn't angry anymore. It was tired. "You weren't supposed to see that policy," he murmured. "So there is something to see," I said. He ignored the comment. I made some bad decisions, Mia." Waited. He stared at his hands. The business. It's not doing well. I owe a lot of money. To people who don't like waiting. My chest tightened. You could have told me. We could have figured it out together. He laughed bitterly. Together. You think you'd just smile and say, "It's okay, honey, we'll pay back $100,000. 100. I choked on the number. Daniel, what did you do? Investments, he muttered. Risk. Bad ones. And then, other things. Like hotel bills. I asked quietly. He closed his eyes. That was my answer. So you lost money. You cheated on me. You lied about your late meetings. My voice shook now, but not from fear. From rage. That's all horrible, but it's still not a reason to. I couldn't say it out loud. The words stuck in my throat like poison. He swallowed, his face tight. You think I wanted this? I don't know what you wanted, I whispered. All I know is you poured me a drink and looked terrified when I didn't drink it. So tell me the truth, Daniel. Was there something in my glass? He didn't answer. Look at me, I said, my voice sharper. Was there something in my glass? Slowly, he lifted his eyes to mine. There it was. The truth. Silent. Deadly. He didn't say the word. He didn't have to. His silence screamed louder than anything he could have said. In that moment, something inside me finally snapped. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I wasn't just betrayed. I was done. I stepped back, took a deep breath, and felt something strange and powerful settle into place. If he wanted to treat my life like a game, he was about to learn what it felt like to lose. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't throw things like in the movies. Instead, I did something much more terrifying. I went quiet. Silence has weight. Silence makes guilty people nervous. I walked out of the bathroom, leaving him there with his shaking hands and his half-spoken excuses. I sat back at the table, looking at the untouched cake, the half-burned candles, the 2 glasses of wine, one barely touched by me, the other with 2 small sips missing. I stared at them for a long time. And then something important hit me. If he had planned this, if he had put something in that glass, then someone had to know. The person he got it from. The person who told him what it would do. The person who warned him about dosage, timing, symptoms. No one learns this kind of thing from thin air. Which meant there were more people on his side than I thought. I pulled my phone out slowly and opened the voice recorder. I hit record and placed it face down on the table, the microphone pointing toward the hallway. If he was going to talk, I wanted proof. A minute later, he walked out of the bathroom. His color was still off, his forehead shiny with sweat, but he tried to act normal. Told you it's just the food, he said, forcing a smile. I said nothing. He shifted his weight from one foot to the other. Why are you looking at me like that? Like what? I asked calmly. Like you already called the police in your head, he snapped. Should I? I asked quietly. His jaw clenched. Oh, for Mia, come on. You're blowing this out of proportion. I'm under stress, okay? I say weird things when I'm stressed. I didn't mean anything. I gestured to the chair across from me. Sit down. He hesitated, then sat. I leaned forward, my voice soft. Whatever you gave me, you drank it too. He flinched. I didn't give you anything. I switched the glasses, Daniel, I said, cutting him off. You know that. I know that. So let's stop pretending. If there was nothing in that glass, then fine, we'll both feel stupid about this later. But if there was something, you should be more worried about your own body than mine. His eyes flickered. His hand went to his stomach again. How long is it supposed to take? Yes. He stared at me. What? Whatever it is, I said calmly. How long before it starts working? 30 minutes. An hour. 2. I don't know what you're talking about, he muttered, but his voice was weak now. Yes, you do, I replied. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You did research. You talked to someone. You planned it. You didn't make this up 5 minutes ago, Daniel. This isn't a mood swing. This is a plan. His breathing sped up. I lowered my voice even more. I saw the insurance policy. I know about the missing money. I know about Lena. I know about the hotel. You needed a way out that made you look like the grieving husband, not the guilty one. You needed a tragedy, not a divorce. Because in a divorce, I'd take half of what little you have left. In a tragedy, you'd get everything. He stared at me like I was a stranger who had broken into his home and read his thoughts out loud. I never, he began. Yes, you did, I said. Maybe you didn't say it out loud. Maybe you never wrote it down. But you thought it, over and over, until it became a plan. He swallowed hard. You want to know the worst part? Continued. You thought I wouldn't notice. You thought I'd smile, take the glass, drink, and fall right into the story you built for me. You thought I was that blind. His voice cracked. What do you want me to say? The truth, I said simply. For once. He opened his mouth, then closed it. The silence stretched between us like a rope. Finally, he whispered. It wasn't supposed to be like this. My heart twisted. Like what? I needed a way out, he said, his voice shaking. They're not patient, Mia. These people I owe money to, they don't care about feelings or families. They told me I needed to solve it. They suggested things. Suggested things. Felt sick. And you listened. Asked. What was I supposed to do? He snapped, suddenly angry again. I was drowning. Every day the numbers got worse. Every day I woke up with my heart racing. I knew you'd never agree to what I needed to do with the house, the savings. You'd fight me. You'd slow everything down. So your solution, I said, my voice cold, was to remove me from the equation. He looked away, shame and fear fighting on his face. I thought I could control it, he muttered. Something small. Enough to make it look natural. My hands trembled under the table, but I kept my voice steady. So you admit it. There was something in the wine. He didn't answer. But the silence was enough. The recorder on my phone captured every second of it. I could feel the power shifting slowly. He wasn't the one in control anymore. It was. You know, I said quietly. I thought about just walking out of here. Right now. Leaving you here with your glass and your choices and your new friends. Let them deal with you. Let you explain to them how your perfect plan failed. He looked at me sharply. You wouldn't. I would, I said calmly. You just tried to erase me from your life, Daniel. You already made your choice. The only question now is what I do with it. His face twisted. So what, you're going to ruin me? Call the police. Tell everybody I'm some kind of monster. I held his gaze. Did you expect me to pour you another drink and forgive you? He opened his mouth, then stopped. He had no answer. So I gave him one. You want to know what I'm going to do? Said slowly. I'm going to make sure that whatever happens next. You can't rewrite the story. You can't turn yourself into the victim. You can't lie your way out of this. His voice dropped to a whisper. What does that mean? It means, I said, my voice steady and cold, that for the first time since I met you, I'm going to protect myself. And I'm going to do it in a way that leaves you completely exposed. He swallowed again hard. Because he finally understood. The game had changed. I didn't sleep that night. Neither did he. Called an ambulance. Not because I wanted to save him, but because I wanted everything to be recorded. When the paramedics arrived, I watched his face as they checked his vitals. I watched his hands shake. I watched him insist he was just feeling a bit off. The medic frowned at his pulse. You're not a bit off, sir. Your heart rate is elevated. Clammy. Have you taken anything today? Any medication? Any substances? He glanced at me, then at them. Just wine, he muttered. I looked straight at the medic. He hasn't been feeling well all evening. His behavior was strange. He seemed scared. He kept touching his stomach. I'm really worried. The medic nodded. You did the right thing calling us. As they guided him toward the door, he looked over his shoulder at me, eyes wide and desperate. Don't say anything, his expression begged. I didn't move, because I already had more than enough. My phone had stayed recording our entire conversation. His half-admissions, his excuses, his fear. I followed the ambulance in my car, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. At the hospital, they took him into a room and started running tests. I sat in the waiting area, the cold hospital light making everything feel surreal. A doctor came out after what felt like hours. Are you his wife? Yes, I said. We're running toxicology, he said, his tone careful. There are signs of something in his system that shouldn't be there. Nothing catastrophic at the moment, but it's concerning. Has he mentioned taking anything? Any pills? Did you see him ingest anything unusual? I felt the world slow down again. Could lie. I could say I had no idea. I could walk away from this quietly. Let him handle the storm alone. But then I remembered something important. If I stayed silent now, I was helping him rewrite the story again. So I took a deep breath. Doctor, can I speak to someone privately? Maybe security. Or the police. The doctor's eyes sharpened. He nodded slowly. Of course. Wait here. 15 minutes later, I found myself in a small room with a calm, serious-looking officer. He asked gentle, practical questions. What happened tonight? Why did you call the ambulance? Has your husband been acting strange? And then, the one that changed everything. Do you feel safe with him? I looked the officer in the eye. For the first time in years, I didn't minimize my feelings. I didn't excuse his behavior. I didn't cover for him. No, I said quietly. I don't. I told the officer everything. The missing money. The hotel bill. The insurance policy. The late-night whispers. The fear in his eyes when I switched the glasses. I told him about what I heard in the bathroom. About the mild dose. About the way Daniel demanded I drink the wine. And then, I said, sliding my phone across the table, I started recording. The officer listened to the audio. His face unreadable. When it ended, he pressed his lips together. Mrs. Carter, he said slowly, you did the right thing. Am I in trouble? I asked quietly, suddenly unsure. He shook his head. No. You're the one who might have been hurt here. We'll investigate this. For now, focus on staying calm. Do you have somewhere safe you can stay tonight? Family? Friends? Yes, I said. My sister. He nodded. I suggest you don't go home alone with him. At least until we understand more. I nodded, numb. Hours later, I stood at the end of a long hallway, watching through the glass as nurses moved around Daniel's bed. He looked small, weak. The opposite of the powerful, controlling man he always tried to be. He saw me. For a moment our eyes met. There were no words. Just 1,000 questions hanging in the air between us. He looked scared. Not the kind of scared you feel when you're sick. The kind of scared you feel when everything you've built on lies starts to crumble. I realized then that this was only the beginning. The beginning of investigations. The beginning of questions. The beginning of the end of my marriage. But it was also the beginning of something else. My freedom. Because for the first time I had chosen myself over him. And I wasn't going back. People always imagine revenge as something loud. Shouting. Public humiliation. Dramatic confrontations. Mine was quiet. Controlled. Carefully planned. The hospital kept him for a while. Tests, questions, more tests. They needed to understand what was in his system, how it got there, and how serious it was. Meanwhile, the officer I'd spoken to opened a file. They looked into our finances. They looked into the insurance. They looked into the people he had been dealing with. And slowly, a pattern appeared. He had taken loans from dangerous people. He had been moving money without telling me. He had been meeting a woman, Lena, regularly. Hotel stays. Cash payments. Private messages. He wasn't just a stressed businessman. He was someone who had decided my life was a line item on a balance sheet. One day, about a week later, the officer called me. We have enough to move forward, he said calmly. We can't promise a specific outcome yet, but there are serious questions he will have to answer. You're not a suspect. You're a protected witness and potential victim. I suggest you consider legal counsel for yourself. And if you want my personal advice, don't go back to living with him. I thanked him, my hand shaking. That same day I took action. I went home when I knew he wouldn't be there. Packed my essentials. Important documents. Sentimental items that actually meant something to me, not to him. I left behind the furniture, the TV, the expensive coffee machine he always bragged about. He could keep the things. I was taking my life. My sister opened her door before I even knocked twice. You don't have to explain, she said softly. Just come in. But I did explain. Everything. She listened with tears in her eyes and anger in her voice. When I was done, she simply said, "You didn't deserve any of that. And he doesn't deserve you." The next step was a lawyer. I didn't look for the cheapest one. I looked for the sharpest one. I showed her the insurance policy, the financial records, the messages, the audio recording. She listened, took notes, and then looked up at me. "Mia," she said, "I'm going to be honest with you. This will be messy. He will fight. He will try to twist the story. Men like this rarely accept responsibility. But you have something most people don't." "What?" I asked. "Proof," she replied. "And courage. That's a powerful combination." We filed for divorce. We froze the accounts he could still access. We made sure he couldn't use my name or signature to move money or sign anything. On the legal side, he was blocked. On the emotional side, I had already started to detach. When he called me, I didn't pick up. When he texted me, his messages went from, "You ruined everything," "We can fix this," "I'm sick. I went too far. Please, Mia, don't leave me," "If you walk away now, you'll regret it." I let my lawyer handle communication. He couldn't reach the version of me he had controlled for years. That version was gone. Revenge, for me, wasn't about yelling at him. It was about taking back everything he thought I'd never dare to claim. My safety. My voice. My future. He had tried to write a story where I was the tragic ending. I rewrote it so he became the warning. When the case formally opened, he had to answer questions. He had to explain the insurance policy. He had to explain the strange transfer of money that matched the dates of his meetings with certain people. He had to explain why there was a substance in his blood that didn't match any prescription, any medical record, any simple wine. He told a story. I told the truth. Quiet, steady, clear. No drama. No exaggeration. Just facts supported by evidence. He thought my silence had always meant weakness. Now he learned it meant power. Months later, on another quiet night, I sat alone in my new apartment. No candles. No fancy dinner. No wine glasses clinking. Just me, a cup of tea, and the soft hum of the city outside. My divorce was almost finalized. The financial mess he created was still being untangled. I didn't get everything. I didn't walk away rich or fully compensated for the stress, the fear, the betrayal. But I walked away alive. And that was worth more than any settlement. I sometimes thought back to that birthday night. The soft music, fake smile, the glittering wine in the glass he pushed toward me, and the way his face changed when I switched the glasses. I realized something important. The most dangerous people in our lives are not always the ones who scream or threaten us openly. Sometimes they are the ones who smile as they push a glass toward us. The ones who say, "Trust me," while hiding their true intentions. The ones who count on our love to blind us. If you ask me what the real revenge was, it wasn't that he got caught. It wasn't that he had to answer to the law. It wasn't even that his reputation took a hit when people slowly found out pieces of the truth. The real revenge was that he lost the one thing he thought he would always control. Me. He lost the woman who used to apologize for asking simple questions. He lost the wife who used to believe every excuse. He lost the partner who used to bend herself into a knot to keep the peace. And I gained something priceless. I gained the ability to listen to my own instincts, to trust that small, quiet voice that whispers, "Something is wrong," to take action even when my heart is breaking. If there is one lesson I take from everything that happened, it's this. Love should never require you to ignore your own safety. If you feel your partner is hiding something serious, if you see patterns of lies, manipulation, secret money, strange behavior, if your body tenses every time they enter the room, that is not just stress. That is not just a phase. That is your intuition trying to save you. My husband poured me wine on my birthday thinking it was the end of my story. But when I switched those glasses, I switched more than just drinks. I switched roles. He stopped being the narrator. I became the author. He tried to erase me quietly. I exposed him quietly. And now, whenever I look back on that moment, that tiny, simple movement of my hand sliding one glass in place of another, I don't just see fear. I see the beginning of my freedom. That night did not destroy me. It woke me up. And if you're listening to this and something inside you feels strangely familiar, maybe it's trying to wake you up too. Because sometimes, survival is the most powerful revenge. And walking away is the loudest victory, even when you do it in silence.